is Ukraine finally able to confirm some gains and is reporting indicating that there's even more coming in the future. But Ukraine may still have its work cut out for them. I'm Paul, U.S. Army combat veteran. It's June 11th, 2023. This is your daily Ukraine update. Let's get right into it. Okay, first we take a look at the control map. The biggest change is right here near Velka Novosilka, and you can see that Blahodatne has been confirmed as liberated per Ukrainian sources. Russian sources not really debating it, and they've provided some photographic evidence of Blahodatne Ukrainian flag flying at what looks like City Hall. There's not many other changes officially to the control map, but when we take a look at War Mapper has a couple of other interesting insights as of 11 hours ago. One is Ukrainian forces advancing west of Lovkove. You can see here, this is pinning Russian forces really against this reservoir as they try to advance into this contested region here near Lobkove. You also have the advances that we talked about, additional advances to the southwest of Velka Novosilka. You can see here's Blahodatne, but there's additional contested regions all in this area as they try to approach this town of Staromilnivka. And of course, here's the more general look at the southern front. We can see that, again, across this front, there's contested regions. Ukraine, again, supposedly the numbers are on 5 different axes of advance, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. But this is what I suspect is happening is that Ukraine is pushing into Russian forces and waiting to see who and where the breakthrough is going to happen. One of these forces will achieve a breakthrough, is the Ukrainian belief. And when it does, they're going to pour in additional brigades to disrupt Russian defensive lines, right? Because it's very hard to break through prepared defensive lines. But once they do, it's very easy in the era of mechanized warfare to sweep aside prepared defensive positions. Think of it like in the Second World War. At the outset of the war, the French had also a linear Maginot Line, a defensive or a fortification network that spanned the German border. And the German forces, instead of attacking the Maginot Line and breaking it front ways, went through Belgium and simply attacked the line from the side and behind. And once they were trying to defend from the side, the entire defensive structure collapsed rapidly. So this is basically part of the second half of that strategy is the same as what Ukrainian forces hope to do. The first half is the complete opposite, a frontal assault against prepared defensive positions. And I want to point this out because I think it's significant. I have maintained for a long time that Ukrainian forces waited far too long to launch their counteroffensive. I spent the better part of February and March complaining about it. And I think this is exactly what you worried about, is that when two people have an hour to prepare, right? If you have a day to prepare, the defender is going to be able to make more progress than the attacker. That's not universally true. That's not entirely true, but Russia has clearly spent a lot of time building out defensive positions in Zaporizhzhia. And for some perspective on just how tough it can be, you can come over to combatvetnews.com. This is my site that I launched because Patreon and YouTube don't let me show combat footage on here anymore. So what I did is, of course, created a members-only section where we break down the week's viral combat footage. And you can see here, we've got some of the first footage coming out of the offensive, including some of the controversial footage of a Leopard and Bradley IFVs being taken out. And we break down what exactly is going on and why it's not quite the disaster that some of the Twitter Twitter chatting heads believe it to be. So if you're interested in that and you want to become part of the 1% of viewers that support my channel, any one of these tiers is going to get you access to the members only content and to an exclusive room on the Discord. So check out combatvetnews.com. But when we look here, you can see, especially, let's see if we can find War Mapper. War Mapper has a great map of Russian defensive earthworks and fortifications, and it really illustrates just how well prepared Russian forces have been for this fight. And you can see here, all of these little darkened red lines represent Russian fortifications. And you can see they have crisscrossed the probably 50 kilometers inside of this area with defensive positions. It's going to be, it's hard work for Ukrainian forces to dig these out, because what you don't also see are things like minefields and obstacles that further complicate this effort. The Russian forces have had a lot of time to pre-plan fires, to have primary, secondary, and tertiary positions that they can retreat to as Ukrainian forces advance. This is a hard to dislodge defense in depth. Now, again, if Ukraine can break the lines and start attacking them from a different angle, right? All of these defensive positions are meant to repel an enemy coming from one direction, that is from the north. If they can break and flank for the south and it start advancing from the east or the west, these defensive positions are going to collapse very quickly. So I say that because this is, again, probably one of the most crucial parts of the conflict. And Ukraine is making progress, right? They are not stalled out. They are advancing. Again, as you can see, Blahodatne officially liberated. A number of other areas in this region, especially these open fields here, have also been marked as liberated. You have, again, not updated yet, but this area also significant territory is controlled or contested by Ukraine. So this, I think, bodes fairly well for Ukrainian efforts. But even the Institute for the Study of War acknowledges that Russian forces are prepared for this. They are defending with a sound tactical defensive doctrine. The nice thing is that while offensive operations, especially mechanized offensives or combined arms offensives, are very tough, defensive fights are easier. They are more forgiving. And they point out that Russian doctrine is relying on three main components: early detection and destruction of Ukrainian assault formations, massive use of anti-tank weapons, and mining territories near Russian defensive positions. Now, you may find that to be a very familiar description. It is exactly how Ukrainian forces fought back Russian armored columns in Volodar, where they never made any substantive advances, and it was an absolute grind to even attempt to take Volodar. So I think this is really fascinating that Russia appears to have, in a way, learned from their own mistakes, or rather learned from the Ukrainians' success, and have implemented those tactics and turned them around in the Ukrainian efforts. Again, some mill bloggers point out that the minefields not only damage Ukrainian armored vehicles as they attempt to break through the minefield, but then damages them again when they attempt to retreat from an area. Or, as we saw in, again, the videos on Combat Vet News, when they end up trying to do vehicle recovery operations, try to cross-level troops, or any of the standard tactical responses to a destroyed vehicle. So they also point out that the established Russian doctrine says that the first echelon of troops, these guys at the very front lines here, their role is primarily to repel or slow attacking forces with minefields, fortifications, and strong points. And the second echelon is a counterattack to push against any enemy breakthroughs. And it sounds like Ukraine is indeed, or at least according to Russians, Ukrainian forces are conducting these limited breakthroughs, temporarily occupy new positions, and then Russian forces counterattack and push Ukrainian forces out again. And this, again, is reflective of sound leadership, but really good preparation. And Ukraine, like it or not, afforded Russia tremendous amounts of time to prepare for this operation. The other most interesting part is that Ukraine's most robust gains have taken place in Bakhmut. Excuse me. And it's fascinating to me because this is where you may notice Russian forces have not had a chance to establish this incredible defensive fortifications. So I think this is a very, I'm almost critical of Ukraine's decision to launch the counterattack here. The reason is while this would be a tremendously strategic victory, Russia is so prepared for this. Whereas in areas, the one place they never expected was in the place where their troops were fully on an offensive footing. And if they had chosen to put these offensive troops and force them rapidly to try to defend, you can see the gains they've made. You can see that this has been a tremendous, we go back through, right? We're moving. If you look back through about the last month or so, or the last 3 weeks, you can see Ukrainian forces achieving significant breakthroughs, especially near Burkiva in the last maybe week. And it's not an accident. It's because these forces are not prepared for defensive operations. Sorry, allergies killing me. It's, summer's here. Anyway, guys, that's all I had for you for today. Thank you guys, as always. Special thank you, of course, to the members of CombatVetNews.com, especially our Colonel tier members. I know we've had some new signups, and I'm going to get you guys shout you guys out today. We're going to do the updates today. Thanks to all of our Lieutenant tier members. Again, the 1% of viewers who are out here supporting me. I appreciate you guys so much, and I'll see you all in the next one.